Hello, welcome into the PHNX Cardinals podcast presented by the DraftKings Sportsbook app, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. Don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Leave us a 5-star review. I'm Johnny Venerable, joined by Bo Brock, Damien Anderson. Gentlemen, we've had a night to sleep on it. Unfortunately, DeAndre Hopkins is still suspended. We are here. We are not suspended. And we're going to talk all things Cardinals, receiving options, veteran players. But first and foremost, how are we coping with this news a day later?
Well, I think it hurts, Johnny. I think that people are still just going through their emotions, trying to figure it out and trying to anticipate what the Cards may do. I mean, we saw the trickle-down effect negatively of the Cards' success last year, or lack thereof, when DHop went down. So I think it's a major blow, and I'm anxious to see how the Cardinals are going to address it.
Reaching for the OGs, you know, I'm sipping my beer like I'm Johnny Venerable at a draft party.
All right. Have we moved past that, please?
Just,
we have bigger
I don't know
issues,
what to do with
Mr.
myself.
Bobrock.
It's just it's brutal. It's brutal. Outside of Kyler Murray, probably the guy you couldn't stand to lose. They lost him for 6 games. You know, glass half full approach. I mean, he's going to be ready to go. He tweeted it out. See you week 7, barring, you know what?
Hey,
next
thanks,
week's schedule
DeAndre.
release. Yeah, next week's schedule release looks like, as long as there's no buy-in between now and then. It's brutal because it looks like, if you think about it, McBride, and I can't wait to hear Damien's thoughts on the rest of the draft class after the first round, but Hollywood Brown and McBride, they certainly soften the blow as far as having more options outside of AJ Green for Kyler Murray as far as in the passing attack. And look, he's got a good amount of options now. And Hollywood Brown's going to be the big one because he was a guy that he's worn that wide receiver 1 tag for the first 3 years in Baltimore. But still, I mean, DeAndre Hopkins was the guy in the red zone. You're going to go from a guy who's over 6 feet tall, a guy who, even though missing 7 games last season, he was 8th in the NFL in red zone touchdowns, to Hollywood Brown, who's 5'9". He's been efficient in the red zone. 27 catches for 12 touchdowns in 3 seasons, but he's just not DeAndre Hopkins.
You know who else is in DeAndre Hopkins? Dez Bryant. And the reason I bring that up, good hell, he hasn't played in the NFL in some time, but it's worth exploring. And this is the first topic of discussion, gentlemen, for today. Dez Bryant leaked out before the NFL draft that the only team he'd go and play for were the Arizona Cardinals. And now we sit here with the benefit of hindsight. And, oh, by the way, did Dez Bryant know something as it relates to what is happening with DeAndre Hopkins? So much so that I did a little digging on Twitter today, and he's been active. He's active every day because, you know, he's just hanging around. Hasn't been the –
He likes
he
to
does.
talk. Yeah.
He also likes to tweet. This came from earlier today. Good morning. It's a GIF of Dez scoring a touchdown, but he's got a little sun right there. And so I'm going to put my detective hat on and say, is Dez potentially signaling that he might have some more than interest in the Arizona Cardinals? I do not want Dez Bryant on this team just because of the fact he's old and slow. And the Cardinals, listen, they needed to remedy that before the draft. But I was surprised.
I don't know if that's going to help us getting Dez on the show. I mean, I don't know.
Older and slower.
Okay, fair enough.
Not old and slow. I apologize, Dez.
Okay.
If you come on the show, please. Listen, if Dez Bryant signs with the Arizona Cardinals, he's not coming on this show anyway. I think they'll have a lock and key here. With that being said, I was surprised by all the people on Twitter that thought this was a good idea. You were not one of them, by the way.
No, this has been going on, I think, since Saturday, since the TMZ report dropped that he mentioned he would love to come play for the Arizona Cardinals. He would take a reduced role. It's like, man, that's very, very humble of you removed from the league as long as he has. And really, the last time he had a 100-yard receiving game, Damien, Barack Obama was our president. That was a long time ago.
I mean, it was about, what, 5-6 years ago? But, Dez is a guy that stays active. I mean, I'm sure Johnny follows his muscle workout videos and him catching the football and all those things and sipping beer to it. You know what I mean?
Let's see. Let's look what he's doing on Instagram right now. Go ahead, Damien.
But I think that he'll stay ready. Does he add depth? Sure. And I think that Dez is always going to tweet that he's ready. I think he's a similar guy to, guys that we've seen in Philadelphia, T.O., guys that, love, demand attention. T.O. is still out there, playing arena football, player control. He just wants an opportunity. Do I think he helps the Cardinals? I don't know if it makes sense schematically. I think Dez is going to be – he's a bigger, I'd say not as elusive CeeDee Lamb, but I'm sure he could still play. There's a lot that he knows, adds depth to the position, but I don't know if it makes sense schematically for Cliff and company.
This isn't Tim Tebow getting signed. It's not a complete joke. Like, what the heck? I mean, this is just his former coach doing him a favor. It'd be the Arizona Cardinals truly doing their due diligence to see what's left in the tank, kicking the tires on Dez. I just think, we've already learned, what his playing fate is. I think we've seen the last of Dez Bryant as far as impact receiver. Do either of you believe that he is an upgrade or equal to Antoine Wesley at this stage in his career?
No.
Yes.
No.
Yes. I
no.
do.
Not when I saw Antoine Wesley at the end of last year, in his early 20s, go into Jerry's World, whatever the Cowboys is, just Dallas Stadium now, and post up 2 touchdowns in the Cardinals' only win of their final 6 games last year, and was one of, if not the most effective pass catchers after DeAndre Hopkins went down. I'm an Antoine Wesley guy. I like his size. I like the fact that he's got a chip on his shoulder, undrafted. Dez, to me, Bo and I were talking about this off air, like Dez would be what, your 6th receiver, 5th best, maybe, and he's not playing special teams. That's a problem because Hopkins, Hollywood Brown, and AJ Green aren't playing special teams. Damien, you were a fixture on special teams. You know the importance of that skilled group. Rondale's going to be returning punts like Dez Bryant. Is he going to be on kick coverage? That's a little concerning, especially if he's a specialized player.
But if you get a guy like that, third down situations, red zone opportunities, I think that Dez, when you highlight him in his position, if you think about it, Johnny Bo, they've gotten guys to put in situations just to do those things. Yeah, sure, they're young and it may not be a huge significant cap hit, but they could play special teams. But as you know, that's why they have so many running backs. That's why they have so many linebackers and guys that they add that can come in and fill those roles. If you're getting Dez, you're not worried about him playing special teams. You're worried about him coming in special situations. And one thing that Steve Keim has done in the past, he'll get a guy for a couple weeks and then make a decision on him. So I don't necessarily see it as a bad thing. They could sign him through training camp and see what it goes through there and then make a decision at the end of training camp and see if he's effective.
The only thing I think makes sense is that Dez doesn't have a ton of options, right? That's the only reason why I would even want to entertain this, because anybody you bring in, and we talked about this earlier, like a Jarvis Landry is not coming here to just play 6 weeks and then be pushed down the depth chart. So you're going to have to convince somebody, if you sign a free agent, whether it's Dez or whomever, that they will have a role past week 6. That DeAndre Hopkins, they're not just going to be ducked down the totem pole 5 or 6 spots. And this room was already crowded. So as much as, and we can transition just to, whether or not you gentlemen feel like they need to add another receiver. I don't think they could get one worth bringing on that would be better than what they had just for the sake of bringing somebody on. I think they would rather go with 2 tight ends, maybe 3 in some instances with Max Williams if he's healthy. Multiple running back sets. I do think that a running back makes more sense at this point. And I mean, was AJ Green even going to play that much before this happened? I think that he probably becomes a more focal point of the offense these first, 4 to 6 weeks, Bo.
That's tough.
Yeah,
he wasn't. He was a shell of himself. Pre DeAndre Hopkins injury,
he's the only one that played. No Hop and no Christian Kirk.
Right, and you hope
that's what you're looking at.
You hope that Hollywood Brown, takes a little of the pressure off of AJ Green, and I think it will. I mean, this isn't the team that ended last season. They're better than that. They're not at full strength. DeAndre Hopkins puts you at full strength, and we'll have a conversation, I'm sure, at some point about what we expect from DHop coming off of the 6-game suspension at 30 years old. Should we expect the old DHop to show up? I hope so. I hope it's not a Patrick Peterson situation where he had to knock some rust off in the next couple weeks. But look, Green, Hollywood Brown, Rondell Moore, you have to imagine that he's going to develop. He's too talented not to. We'll see what this expanded role that Cliff Kingsbury talked about this offseason looks like for Rondell Moore. Is he picking up some carries from Chase Edmonds? Is he taking some slot routes from Christian Kirk? Is it a mix of both of them? Does he become a mini version of Deebo Samuel? I don't know, but Zach Ertz and Trey McBride also. Look, I mean, we're naming guys, and we're not just naming guys. Those guys make an impact each and every week. It's just it's going to come down to Kyler Murray getting them in a position to make those plays. I think the most pressure here is on the shoulders of their franchise quarterback, Kyler Murray, to get the ball into his playmakers' hands without DeAndre Hopkins there.
Yeah, and Bo, and I agree. And that's why they made the acquisition of a guy like Hollywood Brown, because they knew that was coming. And what the concern I have is, what has Hollywood showed you over the 3 years? He's shown you that he's a similar comp to a guy like Christian Kirk. But what does that mean in terms of he's been, there's been some questions about his health over the years. Can he play a full season? I think that's concerning. I think that's why it's important, Johnny Bo, to go out there and get that veteran guy. And to your point, Johnny, I mean, that's a real question you would ask as a vet. Like, hey, I'm not trying to just sign for 6 games, but I know from playing the game, 4 games equals a vested year. So that means that you're going to get paid some money for your retirement. So that's important, right? But I do think that they got a gem in Keontae Ingram, the guy, the running back out of USC. I worked with him at Exos and doing combine prep, and he was in my group with Shad White as well. And super talented. Johnny, you talked about running backs out of the backfield. Kid has great hands. He's almost like a natural receiver out of the backfield. And when you have a guy like James Conner there, he's just going to be a great addition to have and take some of that pressure off more and just allow him to play receiver. But I think we know with Cliff's offense, you're going to get creative and they're going to find ways to get Rondell Moore the football.
A lot of good questions in the chat. Most recent, N asks, how is it going to work for Kyler if the receivers don't get separation again? It's not going to work out well. I do think that the offense early on will lean on the running game, will lean on James Conner, maybe Kyler's legs early in the season. That's why it's imperative you got to get this extension done for many reasons, on top of the fact that Kyler can play free and easy. Good question there. NFL AZ Cardinals asks, is it true that DHop knew about the failed test since November? If this is true, how is he getting to the bottom of the situation? So he knew, very concerning. If you ask me, I had not heard that. What I do think is concerning, NFL AZ Cardinals, is the fact that, I mean, he's not even attempting to appeal. He's just taking this because he clearly knows.
He withdrew it, Johnny. Yeah, he withdrew it. He initially had one. I think his representative came out and said that he was going to, appeal it, and then he.
Why not appeal it then? I think a lot of fans want to know why not. If you're,
you know why they got him on camera. No, I'm just joking. I mean,
you're a first-time offender for this, and you could get it reduced, and you could go to the league and apologize and say it was complete clerical error. We had a brain fart. Whatever you want to spin it, you get a fancy attorney to write something up for you. Like, not to mention the money you'd save from not missing 6 games, but just like, I don't understand that. I would feel better about this whole thing. It's not a great scenario, but it's like, if he was fighting it tooth and nail, like, guys, I screwed up. This is my fault. I take ownership. I had no idea this was a banned substance. Like, I feel like by default, it's DeAndre Hopkins. They would reduce it, wouldn't they? I don't understand this at all, Bo.
Yeah, I honestly have zero clue. I think Damien could probably shed some light as far as the process, what goes on behind the scenes. Not to say he didn't go through it himself, but as far as seeing other players and how it's gone. And I'm sure the Players Association, they've got a whole new CBA since you retired. So I really don't know. I don't know if maybe there was something where if he approached them about the appeal and gone forward, that maybe he could have been in a worse situation or in hotter water. But look, it is what it is at this point. I think what really has to happen now is, to your point, Johnny, guys like Julio Jones, Will Fuller, the bigger names remaining on the market, the Jarvis Landrys, they're not going to want to come in 6 games and take a back seat. Now you have to get outside the box as far as your approach to maybe finding a solution there. And I think N'Keal Harry would be a great guy to kick the tires on, bring back. And everybody says, well, if he wasn't a Sun Devil, we wouldn't be having this conversation. That's not true. He's a first rounder, a couple of years removed from his first round, selection. And it doesn't seem like he was given an opportunity to succeed in New England. If you don't start playing right away and succeed there, Bill Belichick buries you. So I know that, it doesn't look great, but as far as the way his frame's set up, he could play on the perimeter and he could play that X position and at least push the envelope for a guy like Antoine Wesley. So that you have at least your best option going forward for the 6 games without DeAndre Hopkins in the beginning of the season.
I feel like, go ahead, Damien.
No. I mean, I see both sides of that. As a player, if I'm Julio Jones, Will Fuller, Jarvis, Landry, I'm looking at it as the opportunity. The Cardinals have a young talent and a young talent on offensive line in terms of Cliff Kingsbury. They have a young talent at quarterback. I could utilize that opportunity, go out there and maximize it. How are they going to take me off the football field? Like, why would they do that? And I would say a guy like Will Fuller, they're all comps to AJ Green. Yeah. So if you get a guy like that and he outplays AJ Green, what's that mean? You're paying him $3 million per year. You're going to find ways to rotate, maneuver. I mean, maybe long-term wise, but we've seen Steve Keim in the past sign guys to 1-year deals, and they go out there and they make a lot of money. They make a lot of plays and make a lot of money as a result. I mean, we've seen it when he brought back Carlos Dansby, Jonathan Abraham. We've seen him sign guys that are veteran, quality free agents and come into Arizona and make a name for themselves again.
I think prepare yourselves. I think it's going to be like a Pharaoh Cooper type of addition. He played for the Cardinals back in 2019. I think he would make a lot of sense. He's a free agent. I looked up his Damiere Byrd with a team. He's with the Atlanta Falcons. That's the kind of move I could see Cliff doing, getting somebody from years prior that's got familiarity with the offense. Yeah, that to me makes the most sense. Of course, you'd love to have Julio Jones. Of course, you'd love to have all of these starters that are available just to supplement, mix and match. But that's not realistic in today's NFL. I want to remind everybody right now, the NBA playoff action is nonstop at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. This week, new customers can bet just $5 on any team to win, get $150 in free bets if they do. Looking to turn a small bet into a big payday during the NBA playoffs with same-game parlays. DraftKings can do just that. Create your own parlay by combining multiple bets, like which team can win, total threes made, total rebounds. Last night, I hit on the first field goal. Chris Paul, boom, plus 1,200. You got a shot at an even bigger payout right now. All customers can place a same-game parlay with 3 or more legs, and you get a free bet back up to $25 if one leg does not hit. It's a call to action. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use that promo code PHNX. Bet $5 on any NBA team to win their game. Get $150 in free bets if they do. That's promo code PHNX, only at DraftKings Sportsbook, 21 and over. Arizona only. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-NEXT-STEP. New customer only. Minimum $5 deposit. Eligibility restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook. Gentlemen, I think I'd be remiss if I didn't bring up this. Kyler Murray in support yesterday of DeAndre Hopkins. That was earlier today. Hop's character has never been in question. We got you, family. And I think this just emphasizes, guys, this Kyler Murray said it right there. He's got to prove it this fall, but Cardinals can win these 6 games with or without DeAndre Hopkins if that player right there, K1, plays up to his capabilities. They can beat anybody. We've said that about Kyler Murray since day one. He is not a Ryan Tannehill, right? He's not a Jimmy Garoppolo. He has the ability to carry this organization. We need to see that, especially if he's going to get $40-45 million this offseason. That's why, a day later, it hurts, but you got Kyler Murray under center. You got a chance to win a football game. That's my opinion.
He's a game changer. I agree, Johnny Bo. Kyler Murray has fulfilled, his part of the agreement since he became an Arizona Cardinal. He's gotten the team better every year. He's a star in the league, and he's on par with his contemporaries. Can he win games for you? I see him as a better more athletic Russell Wilson. That's what I see his comp to. One thing that Russell Wilson had was a great defense. He had a great running game, and I think that we're going to see that with the Cardinals. Can they utilize Benjamin, James Conner, Keontae Ingram? Can they utilize those guys in that 6-game span, as well as Hollywood Brown be a star, Moore be a star, as well as AJ Green? I mean, it's going to be a lot of questions. I don't think the onus is all on Kyler Murray. I agree with you, Johnny. I think he's great. I think he can do all those things, but there's a lot of unknowns, coming into this season, because we know how he's played without DHop in the lineup.
He needs to kind of hit that next level. He needs to get his take his game to the next gear, and that's like where Aaron Rodgers. We've seen Aaron Rodgers without Devontae Adams. I think I don't think he's lost a game without Devontae Adams in the lineup, and that's he elevates his play. He elevates the play of the receivers that aren't named Devontae Adams, and that's what Kyler Murray needs to do, especially when he secures the bag for what, $43 to $48 million a season. That's what it takes to make that much money. I do appreciate that he's out here supporting his guy who's down, who probably's eaten a bunch of shit the last 24 hours because of what happened, DeAndre Hopkins. So big ups to Kyler Murray for being a leader, especially on the heels of what Ryan Tannehill said today. My God, can you imagine being that type of teammate, saying you're not going to mentor the young player you just drafted? I mean, I appreciate that.
That felt terrible, Bo. Yeah, that felt terrible. I mean, I just think that's the right thing that you do. I mean, it's not like the guy was a first-round draft pick. I mean, right. and not to get off subject too much, but if anybody didn't catch it, Ryan Tannehill was asked about Malik Willis and being a mentor. And to me, I thought that he could have handled it a better way. I'm not Ryan Tannehill, but again, he's not a first-round draft pick. He's not coming in there to steal his job. He's a guy that they're going to develop. And he did say that, hey, by watching me, can he learn something? Sure. But I think what you saw from Kyler is leadership. He likes his guys. We've seen, the Cardinals go, make some things happen so he could be around his guys. And I mean, big props to him for showing love to DHop during this situation.
Yeah, thankfully, Ryan Tannehill's not an Arizona Cardinal. Colt McCoy not threatening to Kyler Murray, despite the outcry of Twitter that Colt McCoy could go 11-6 with this team. I don't think that's possible. We love you, Colt.
Colt hasn't won 11 games in his career.
Yeah,
he hasn't. It's a fact.
Colt's a nice addition as a backup. Speaking of additions, gentlemen, the Cardinals now can officially begin to sign free agents and not have it affect their comp picks next year. For those of you who don't know, the Cardinals are scheduled to have a 3rd, 5th, and 6th. Those are predicted via Over the Cap. They're usually spot on. Keim loves his comp picks. He'll get them. And now the Cardinals can go out and take their money. I think they've got upwards. They should, after the Jordan Phillip post-June 1st release, have somewhere 20-25 million. They don't have to sign a first-round pick this year. So, gentlemen, with that being said, what position would you like the Arizona Cardinals to target first in free agency? And do you have a specific free agent in mind? Bo, I'll start with you, that could help this team immediately.
Man, I was going to say running back, but I want to hear more from Damien in his breakdown of Keontae Ingram. I didn't know that you'd trained with the young kid who played 3 years at Texas and won at USC, 2 huge programs, and he was recruited heavily out of Texas, and I wouldn't doubt that Cliff Kingsbury was one of those guys recruiting him back in his Texas Tech days. Does Darrell Williams, is he still a fit, or do you go with the fresh legs? A sound running game regardless is going to help ease this suspension. But yeah, I think you got to look at the defensive side of the football at this point. Supplement the pass rush. I like what they did in the draft, flooding that position with numbers. But go out there, maybe look at an Melvin Ingram, a guy that who has experience getting to the quarterback, who's played in some big games in his career, has that experience that you want, that could kind of help mentor these young guys, be the anti-Ryan Tannehill, show these young bucks, these Cameron Thomases, the Sanders out there, how to get to the quarterback and all the tricks of their trade, everything they have in their toolbox. So look at the edge position. And then Mike Clay put out a positional breakdown of ESPN of all the NFL rosters, and he had the Arizona Cardinals cornerback room one of the worst in the league. And they still need to bring in my opinion, a veteran in the defensive secondary. But if I were to look at it, a very long-winded answer, edge is what I would look on the open market.
Hey, Damien, you're muted, my man.
Man, I don't know. I'm having one of those days, guys. I agree with Melvin Ingram, but I like Jadeveon Clowney. I really do. What his compliment, how he was able to perform in Cleveland, opposite of Myles Garrett and coming off a season with 9 sacks, Johnny. I just think that you need to solidify that position. I agree with Bo in terms of how you address it in the draft, but those guys are unknown. You hope that you get a guy that comes in and makes an impact, but the likelihood of that happening is probably minimal. But if you get a guy that's proven in there a deal favorable to the team, and like we've seen Kime before, as I said again, he'll get guys on those 1-2 year deals, mostly 1 year deals that allow them to want to play and be in a market where they're going to be on television. They're going to get a lot of notoriety and opportunity to make it happen. So I'm going to go with edge number 1. Number 2, always offensive lineman. I mean, if you're talking about investing in Kyler's future with this team, you got to protect him always. So potentially an offensive lineman there. And defensive back, you can never have not enough defensive backs in this game.
I got a comment from a buddy of mine the other day that thought that was interesting when thinking about the outside linebacker position for the Cardinals, the fact that they now have a lot of bodies, a lot of them not proven. If they can't go out and sign a veteran pass rusher, you're going to need Devon Kennard to play the Robert Alford role of last year. Basically, you're coming back in a reduced salaried position. Everybody doubts you. What can you do for not only this team, but the younger players in your position group? And I think they're going to roll the dice with Devon Kennard and these rookies. I would be, at this point, surprised they haven't shown any interest in one of these veteran pass rushers. I think by taking 2 of them in the 3rd round, we assume both are going to play outside linebacker. That's a lot of bodies. Plus, you've got Dennis Gardeck coming back a full year and a half removed from injury. We'll see. It's not my favorite position group. I still think they would probably be best served to add a first rounder at that position next year. But I'm going to look at the defensive line. The defensive line right now that you've got 2 individuals in Zach Allen, J.J. Watt, who's got significant injury concerns. They do not have a 5 technique to speak of. That scares me. I like Michael Dogby fine. I like Rashad Lawrence and Leki Fotu fine. Somebody like Hakeem Hicks for the Chicago Bears, who's a free agent, 3.5 sacks last year, that can really push the pocket from the interior of the defensive line would be fantastic for this team. Something they have not had enough lately. Can you imagine him next to Watt? I think that would be great. I think Robert Alford coming back, if you can get something done there, makes too much sense not to happen. And to your point, Damien, I would say definitively, like, they're going to bring in competition on that interior offensive line. They lost a chess piece on their interior offensive line with Max Garcia last year that could play all 5 positions. They don't really have that right now. I mean, Will Hernandez is a guard, right? Josh Jones really should only play tackle. Justin Murray's coming off injury. Like, they need an interchangeable 6th lineman, especially if they're going to run the football early next year without DeAndre Hopkins. So, you can go and you can find, NFL.com's best availables, and it's Odell Beckham and Dwayne Brown. I would love Clowney or Melvin Ingram. Gronk's on that list. I think the Cardinals, there are actually a fair amount of pass rushers, guys. I worry they feel like they're not going to have enough snaps to go around. But if one of the rookies pops, you're in good shape, Bo.
Yeah, no doubt about it. You just got to give a guy a shot. Speaking of shots, it's time for screenshots here on PHNX. Cardinals COVID vaccines are free for everyone 5 and older. Those 12 and older are also eligible for the booster. Let's do the right thing. Keep everyone safe as we get together to watch the Suns playoff in action. Visit azhealth.gov for a location near you. That's azhealth.gov.
Can we answer this question real quick, Bo?
Yeah.
That's on the screen. This is a great question from NFL AZ Cardinals. What kind of deal would the Packers have to make for DHop for the Cardinals to even consider it? This has been floating around out there. I think maybe Dan Orlovsky or somebody for ESPN basically said they could help each other. Will you really help the Packers? I know that would really help the Packers.
Sure.
At this point, I don't know if anything makes sense. I don't really look
Aaron
at
Rodgers,
guys.
Aaron.
I don't really look at the Packers roster and think that's just a ton of talent over there.
Exactly.
I would say at least a first round pick, because then you're getting rid of his salary. You're getting a 1, but that 1's going to be late 20s, early 30s. It just doesn't make sense for a team that wants to make the playoffs next year. I don't know.
Devontae Wyatt and Christian Watson, 2 guys they drafted. I don't even think you pick up the phone No, you don't. You don't talk to the wall. Now, one thing that happened with the suspension is it unguarantees DeAndre Hopkins' contract this year, correct?
Yeah.
But they still would have to cap ramifications, right? If they were to trade or cut him, they would still
Right.
get the dead money. Okay.
Yeah. I think people are premature. I think Steve Keim does not want to move off of him. I think they look at his injury last year and this as outliers. If DeAndre Hopkins comes back, and we need to say this throughout the offseason because it needs to be reaffirmed, and balls out in 11 games and helps the Cardinals get to the playoffs, he's not going anywhere. I don't care if he's making, $35 million. This league, and we talked about it leading up to the draft, is about playmakers on the outside, difference makers, and you've still got a top, in my opinion, 5 receiver in the NFL. Let's see how if DeAndre Hopkins is the opposite of Patrick Peterson and helps this team and saves this team and gets them to 10, 11 wins, he will be an Arizona Cardinal. Now, if he doesn't perform, then you have those conversations. Maybe he takes a pay cut. Maybe you move him. But the great thing about football, and you know this, Damien, is like these questions, they get answered on Sundays. We're going to know definitively, like, can a guy play anymore, or is it diminishing in value? We need to move off of it.
Well, action, as you guys all know, actions speak louder than words. And I think that it may be a gift in disguise with what's going on with DHop. I mean, coming off the injury, giving him an extended amount of more time, Bo, in order to heal up, right, and be ready. And I think that'll just allow him to be in great shape, come right back in the offense. But, Johnny, I don't see them moving off DHop. They need him too badly, especially in this offense and given the success that he and Kyler have had. So with that, I just don't see it happening, but I can foresee potentially a situation where Hop comes back on fire, making things happen because he's got fresh legs and he's been sitting around and he has something to prove. And as you mentioned, Bo, that is it that 6 games isn't guaranteed or the entire season? You know what I mean? What's the impact of that, Johnny Bo? So is it the 6 games he hadn't get paid for?
Obviously. Well, he's gonna miss out on over $5 million for missing those 6 games. But if they wanted to cut DeAndre Hopkins, they would certainly they would have the ability to do that. But I think they would incur the dead cap money regardless because of bonus money that they have to pay out. But look, they're not going to get rid of DeAndre Hopkins. We said this even before when we saw him working out in the pool. Motivated DeAndre Hopkins is good for the Arizona Cardinals. Why would they send him to another NFC contender? Like, unless they were like, okay, we're just going to shut it down. We just suffered the biggest L of the offseason and we don't see ourselves contending. They're not thinking that. They got their holy shit player already in Hollywood Brown to help supplement the wide receiver core. They just, who knows? They must have, Johnny, you mentioned that on Twitter today at Johnny Venerable, that you can confirm that they had an idea that they were going to be without DeAndre Hopkins before they made the move for Hollywood Brown. So
yeah, I got confirmation this morning from somebody I trust that said they absolutely knew, and this played a part in it. They were not exiting the draft without either a top 50 prospect at receiver or Hollywood Brown, and they love the idea of Brown already playing the role as a one in Baltimore to take on that ownership and responsibility with Kyler Murray. I think they feel much better about it than public perception would lead you to believe. And I also don't think if, let's say, they take Treylon Burks, right, he had somehow made it to 23, like that's pretty unfair expectations for him to have to come in and be your number one right away. So, and I also think it makes sense. Like, I did not like the move to bring back AJ Green, even at a reduced salary. But man, oh man, like, could you imagine had they not signed AJ Green and they just said, we're going to roll with Hop and Rondell Moore, and then we'll get like a mid-rounder, we'll be fine. What that would look like today, you're telling me they didn't hedge their bet, bringing back Green, trading for Hollywood Brown, right? And we think they're going to have interest in 1 or 2 receivers, not of note, but for depth purposes between now and the fall. It makes too much sense that Steve's like, yeah, this is coming. Plus, had Baltimore known about this, they definitely would not have gotten a third back in return. It would have probably been Hollywood Brown straight up for the first rounder.
For sure, Johnny. I mean, I agree. In hindsight, I mean, probably with the CBA, it's something where the team has to be notified. The player gets a certain amount of opportunities to appeal it before it goes, like a final decision, right? So I guarantee you that, the Cardinals knew about it. They made a great decision. They got some depth. They got a proven receiver at the position. As you mentioned, Johnny, getting AJ Green back, that makes sense now that why they got the tight end with the second round draft pick, because it adds depth. It's another piece to that offensive unit. So they're trying to, fulfill that hole. And, when Hop gets reinserted back in the lineup, you do some more formations, and you could see at that point what McBride's able to do, at tight end. But I like what they try to do to try to address it, but there's a lot of unknowns there. Hollywood is a great player. He's a comp to Christian Kirk, not DeAndre Hopkins. So there's still going to be a need for Kyler Murray, Bo, I think you said a little bit earlier, to step up his game to that elite status.
I think everybody just needs to just take a big breath.
In OGs?
Yeah, absolutely. Just sit down, get yourself a pack of OGs. It's one of Arizona's first original scratch-made cannabis kitchens and dedicated to creating an innovative and memorable cannabis-infused products that flavor life's journey. Quality of their products stem from the combination of accurate dosing and amazing flavor. Edibles are not a one-size-fits-all product, which is why OGs is proud to offer a wide range of products for all demographics and preferences. Their motto, it's flavoring life, and that's something we can all get behind. Let's get tropical. How about their tropical flavors? Unbelievable roster here. Strawberry, kiwi, guava, raspberry orange, pina colada. They even have the orange creamsicle gummies that somebody hit us up at PHNX Sports on Twitter, PHNX_sports, saying how good those creamsicle gummies are. You want to check them out? You want to learn more about OGs? Go to ogsbrands.com. That's OGEEZ brands.com. Absolutely, NFL AZ Cardinals OGs will get DHop whole year suspension. No, it won't. The NFL has eased off their cannabis, I guess,
from the earth, man.
Ruling.
From the earth.
Yeah, from the earth.
You can't take bear tranquilizers, but you can take some OGs, baby. That's where you want to be. Great question in the chat from Eric Cross. Who will be the Cards' leading receiver after Week 6? Damn well better be Hollywood Brown with the amount of draft capital you just gave up. Now, I will say Rondale Moore, I think, led the team in receiving after the first month last year. And so if they can figure out his usage, maybe Hollywood's still getting his bearings about him in this new offense. It better be either Rondale Moore or Hollywood Brown. If it's not, the Arizona Cardinals are in big, big trouble.
I don't necessarily agree with that. Zach Ertz could very well.
That's what I was thinking, Bo.
Yeah.
You think so?
Yeah, it could
Zach
be.
Ertz? Okay.
It could be, because with so much attention, what they're able to do, Kyler Murray, I mean, he's found a affinity with Zach. He likes going with Zach. He's proven he's a guy that can make things happen, knows how to run great routes and find open opportunities in the defense. And Cliff, as we know, can call plays up, dial plays up for Zach, misdirection, whatever it is, just to find opportunities. So, and Zach is a guy that we've seen catch the ball 10, 12, 15 yards and take it vertical and score. So I could see that happening. I mean, with the attention early on in the season, guys are just trying to lock down outside receivers, guys like AJ Green, Hollywood Brown. I could see Rondale Moore and or Zach Ertz get off at the beginning of the year for 6 games for sure.
I mean, in 11 games, wasn't he the leader in receptions and in yards since coming over the Arizona Cardinals? Obviously, with the absence of DeAndre Hopkins, broke the record for receiving yards by a tight end since the Cardinals.
But see, that to me said more about this receiving core being broken at the end of the year.
Sure,
now, I love Zach Ertz, and I want to target him, and I think he makes a lot of sense, especially in the red zone. But what they were playing at the end of the year was not offense. That was just – remember the Detroit?
Yeah, it was under 20 a game. It was brutal. It was brutal.
And the Indy game, like that to me, if I'm Cliff Kingsbury, it's almost, I'm not going to go as far as it's a good thing, because it's not. But Cliff Kingsbury, with an entire offseason to scheme up the first 6 weeks of the season and not have a crutch like DeAndre Hopkins, because he has been used as a crutch. Kingsbury has even said as much, that he did not. I mean, 2 years ago in 2020, Hopkins' first year, the offense was literally only Kyler and DHop. It was backyard football, right? So I feel like let's
hop
see
down there somewhere, Johnny. Hop down there. Somewhere.
That's right. Let's get some creativity from Mr. Cliff Kingsbury. You may not have a true number one, but you have a bunch of 2s and 3s with a 1A quarterback that you should be able to produce 30 plus points a game. So I do think this is a good litmus test, because I don't want to hear about, hey, we're 2 and 4 in the offense is scoring 19 points per game. Come back and save us, Hopkins. If that's what's happening, then Cliff Kingsbury will have a lot to answer about. I think he will come to figure this out. And I do think the Cardinals are going to be fine offensively, but I don't have excuses ready. You either have to produce. You can't be given this much time and not figure it out. If this had happened August 25th, I give you some leeway, a couple weeks.
What's the expectation, guys? What's the expectation?
I think that 26, 27 points per game.
But what I mean, fuck points, Johnny. At this point, it's wins, right? So it's like, what's the over under for the first? Is it 3-3? Are you happy with that, or is it 4-2? You know,
no, I want a winning record after 6 games. I don't care if you're playing everybody in division. I feel like you tell me you have a top 5 quarterback in year 4 with the same coach. You at no point you should be under 500 next year. The team is talented outside of DeAndre Hopkins. This is not scrub central, right? Watt is back. There's a ton of guys that are playing for money in contract years, but whether it's Byron Murphy or Zach Allen, DJ Humphries is in a contract year. Like you got a Pro Bowl running back. You just traded for a number 1 receiver. Like you ought to be able to be fine. Maybe you're not elite, but you ought to be able to win 4 or 6.
Johnny, and going back to a point that you made a little bit earlier, you said you got a 1A quarterback, and I absolutely agree with that. The reason why I don't think it's as bad as people may think, because it's at the beginning of the season, right? And the Cards will be healthy. As you mentioned, you got a healthy J.J. Watt. You got a healthy Kyler Murray. You got guys, Kyler, where he gets banged up towards the latter part of the season because he's getting hit all the time. Early on in the season, he can move around, extend plays, create throwing lanes, situations like that where he can be the dynamic Kyler Murray. And the NFL AZ Cardinals, _ AZ Cardinals, had a question a little bit earlier, asked me about what's it like with, a guy gets suspended in the locker room. Do guys feel any type of way? And when I was playing, it was a, first round draft pick, Wendell Bryant. And I think it just came down to a situation where, he liked the green, and I'm not sure, what it was in terms of the laws and what the measurables were, but it was all about his playing ability. So I know that guys know that DHop could play. And I think as Bo talked about a little bit earlier, the leadership that came from Kyler Murray and said that his character is never a question, I think that speaks volumes right there. And it's going to be contingent upon him coming back and still being the DHop, the dynamic receiver, as you mentioned, Johnny, top 5 receiver in the NFL. If he does that, all will be forgotten. And people care about winning, guys. At the end of the day, they'll anticipate him coming back. The team will hopefully still be healthy at, right around game 6, game 7. And Kyler's going to keep everything tight and maybe have to rely heavily on the running game. But when you got a guy like Kyler Murray, you could do a lot of different things. And I think that's the ace in the hole.
You just hope that the schedule doesn't come out and you face the Bucs and you face the Chiefs and you face the Broncos in those first 6 games. You're going to get some of them, or in the Rams. You're going to get one of those or 2 of those games in there. And if you can weather the storm, I think even if you're at 2-4, you get DeAndre Hopkins back in the lineup, you'll be in a pretty solid spot. I saw some questions about Trey McBride in there, and Quentin Harris joined Dave Pasch, the play-by-play guy for the Arizona Cardinals on the flagship radio station. Quentin Harris, the director or VP of player personnel, said that they view McBride more as a Max Williams type tight end than a Zach Ertz type tight end, even though he had 90 catches for 1,100 yards last year. I think that kind of came off odd to me.
Yeah,
because Max Williams is more of he's your blocking tight end.
I don't think you want to draft I don't think you want to draft a Max Williams in top
the
50.
Second round. I mean, maybe that's propaganda, guys. Maybe that's a situation where they're throwing it out there, get people not to worry about him. And McBride goes out there and is the focal point of this offense. But I know Q, a very intelligent guy, free agent like myself, and worked his way up through the ranks. And he's, they do a laboring job evaluating talent. And I just think that's all fluff. I mean, I think that we all know
limiting expectations. And I think it probably is more of a compliment to say, like, he's not only a pass catcher, he can be an elite run blocker, because once upon a time, didn't he play?
That don't matter in second round, Johnny. That doesn't matter in second round.
Well, no, that's what I'm saying. You bet. Troy Nicholas was closer to Max Williams than Trey McBride. Trey McBride has elite hands. Like Trey McBride.
Jalen Blair said it right there. He said maybe in the realm of blocking, Ertz can't block and McBride can. So I mean, respect.
You take a guy that high, like you want. If he's making Pro Bowls,
he better be able to do everything, Johnny.
You better be going 700-800 yards in a couple of years. That's the goal. You take somebody that high. 55 is a top 60 pick, a starting tight end in an offense that feeds the tight end. I'm sure maybe you just misspoke because I'm not.
I mean, the
buying
option was Ertz or Williams. So, I mean, to Jalen's point, if he can block a lick, he's more of a Max Williams.
merge them together.
Sure. If you get a hybrid of
that?
those two, absolutely, you'll take that.
George Kittle's a hell of a blocker. So let's just he's going to be George.
You see what he did to Von Miller last year?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
God.
Well, Kyler Murray, we talked about it yesterday. I think it bears repeating. Steve Keim on Adam Shine's podcast, Mad Dog Sports Radio, did say that the Cardinals have entered, basically they're starting negotiations with Kyler's camp now. Everybody seems happy, even with this Hopkins news. You need some good press, good hell after this Hopkins news. They thought they were going to exit draft weekend, and it maybe not come out for a little while. Well, you got Hollywood Brown. Kyler Murray, does he get extended before training camp, gentlemen, before we go today?
Training camp, when does training camp start, Johnny, Bo?
In the July.
And when was Allen and all the other guys? When were they? Was it similar?
I think Allen was July. Earliest was June for these contracts.
It was in the summer.
I think so, Johnny Bo. I think it gets done before, and it's going to be something equivalent, like you said a little bit earlier, Bo, like $40-something million. Over that, obviously guaranteed. Maybe the whole thing guaranteed. But to your point, good press, is important for the Cardinals. Obviously, they care. Everyone cares about their image, and with losing DHop, they want some sense of security for the fan base moving forward. And I think that's a big move, and it aligns with everything that they've done. Saying that there's a 0 chance of getting rid of him. Signing Hollywood Brown. His best friend, and doing as they said they would, taking care of a young star in the National Football League. Kyler Murray is the reason why we talk about the Arizona Cardinals. And I no disrespect to all the other players, but I don't think that people would think that the Cardinals had a chance to go to the playoffs, go to the Super Bowl if Kyler Murray wasn't the quarterback. Take care of the man, pay him.
Let me ask you this. Does the DeAndre Hopkins situation, I was asked this on local radio today, Jody Ayler, Fox Sports 910, he asked me, does this add leverage to Kyler Murray in his contract negotiations?
I probably not, because you got him Hollywood Brown. I think if there was no Hollywood Brown, because Kyler and Hollywood feel like, they're 1A, 1B can be, Pro Bowlers together. That's the hope, right? I do not think it has leverage. I think if you had not made that move and it's Kyler and I'm going out there with who? AJ Green again, and he's my number one. Guys, come on. That's my opinion. And I do agree with Damien. I think it gets done this summer. I don't think Steve Keim, who likes to take a vacation, I think before training camp, can say bon voyage to Mexico or wherever, Europe or wherever he wants to go, Florida, before getting this taken care of. Then you can put your feet up, go into training camp, sign a couple of cheap veterans. This is priority one for the Cardinals now. I would not be surprised, gentlemen, if we got something done before the end of the month. He made it clear they're pivoting toward this now. Everybody knows the number. It's over 40 now. Once upon a time, it wasn't 40, and then they pulled their offer. I think early June is the sweet spot, because it's in early June, OTAs, and wouldn't you love to have this done before OTAs so you can strut around your new toys with Kyler Murray, $40+ million man. That's my official prediction as of now.
260, right? Is that what we're thinking? 260-ish
total. My money.
Yeah, damn.
Team win and be entertaining. So 260 for Kyler Murray or $3 million with Colt McCoy. Give me the former.
I mean, yeah, Kyler is the man right now, and seeing what Watson was able to get, and seeing all these other equivalent, comparable quarterbacks getting paid that haven't reached his success, you got to pay the man and pay him handsomely, and you're secure for the next 8 to 10 years, in terms of your fan base, in terms of just the importance in the quarterback position and what it means to teams in the National Football League. He's going to be a young star for, an extended period of time, and you got to take care of him. And that's going to bring and attract some key free agents. I mean, if if that situation arises where you need a guy, this, that, or the third, hey, you come here, they take care of you. It's a great place. I want to live here. They extended me. Hey, this is what it means to be an Arizona Cardinal. I think it bodes well for the organization as a whole, fan base, everybody affiliated with the Arizona Cardinals. Got to do it, Johnny.
Got to do it. You know what else you got to do? You got to go become a member at gophnx.com. $8.99 for the second month. Actually, 99 cents or under $1 for the first month is a tremendous deal. Or you can just become a member for the first full year and get half off and get a free T-shirt from our PHNX merchandise locker. Cop one of these hats. Bo and I finally got our hats draft night. We've been rocking them ever since. Super comfortable, not to mention all the great Suns gear you can get to load up for their inevitable championship run. You can only find that at PHNX merchandise locker. Go PHNX.com. My guy Bo has a couple new articles. Go check out the fact that Cardinals need to show some resilience here in the light of the DeAndre Hopkins suspension, as well as Steve Keim's loaded 2022 NFL draft class. I want to remind everybody, be sure to like, subscribe, leave us a 5-star review. Mr. Bo Brock's got it. Go do it right now. Set your notifications, set your automatic downloads so you do not miss a show. We will be back on Thursday, pending breaking news. We haven't taken a day off since goodness I think our last day off was the Sunday before the draft because we don't stop here at PHNX. We aren't suspended. We're rocking and rolling with content year-round. Follow us, Bo Brock on Twitter, at Bo Brock, Damien Anderson, at Damien Anderson. I'm Johnny Venerable. Follow PHNX_Cardinals on Twitter. We will see you on Thursday. Take care, everybody.